This is a 2026 Honda Prelude Hybrid. The return of the Prelude name for 2026 marks the beginning of the 6th generation of the two-door. And after more than a 20-year absence, a lot has changed. For one, it now relies on hybrid power. It also borrows quite a lot from the Civic Type R parts bin. Finally, it's very simple, with only one well-equipped trim available. The return of the Prelude returns a lot of fond memories for me of the old one, which drove brilliantly. And that burdens this one with higher expectations. Does it meet them? Let's find out. But first, let's talk price. The base price of this 2026 Honda Prelude Hybrid is $43,195. And my test car got a coat of optional paint for $455 and costs $43,650. Otherwise, everything we get as standard. In fact, let me show you by pulling over to take a look around and inside the car. The Honda Prelude Hybrid takes a more sports car approach to the market than its internal combustion engine powered past did. And I do like it. For example, you get this low sloping front end, and I do like this nice black chrome louver in the small grille right here, and a bit of a front spoiler right here as well. And this bit right here to add a little bit of strength in center is a nice touch. Not to mention this long sweeping rear end with, of course, full width taillights. It is a modern car after all. It's also only 53.4 inches tall. We also get these 19-inch Berlina black wheels with Civic Type R brakes behind them. That is a 13.8-inch rotor and a 4-piston Brembo front caliper. Civic Type R brakes in back too. These are 12-inch rotors with single piston sliding calipers. Still painted though. And this is a good point to mention that we have high performance summer rubber on the car. Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02s in this particular case. It all combines to look low and swoopy and great. Looking at the Prelude in profile, you get a better sense of the swoopy shape of it, and also a good look at the Boost Blue Pearl paint. It is one of 5 colors available on the Prelude. This one is, as I mentioned earlier, a $455 optional color. And you can see it's not very big. It's actually dimensionally very close to the 5th generation Prelude, though a fair amount wider. Yes, you do have rear seats in the Prelude, but no, they are not very big. There is not a lot of space back there. You can see that legroom is quite precious, and you can also see that it is designed to seat 2, not 3, though the seats do fold down easily enough, 60-40 split. You get 15 cubic feet of storage in the trunk, and a lot more if you fold the seats down, but Honda doesn't say how much. The front seats, on the other hand, offer a healthy amount of space and a lot of support. Look at these massive upper bolsters here, and then very healthy lower bolsters as well. This is not Civic Type R territory, but it's not far from it. And these are manually adjusting seats. Also, this is a nice quick look at the blue and white interior. The other option for the interior is black. The inside of the Prelude is pretty darn nice, up front at least, and pretty darn purposeful as well. There is no moonroof, no option for a moonroof, no nothing. This helps Honda lower the roof a little bit and still give good head clearance. We also have a 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster and a 9-inch center display and a push button printer right here with a few different drive modes I'll get to in a moment. Now you can see the 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster lit up and the 9-inch center display lit up, and this does come standard with wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, as well as Google built in, which is Google Maps, Play Store, and Assistant, and Alexa built in as well. The Prelude also comes standard with dual zone climate control, and you can see that we have nice real knobs right here, heated seats, a couple of USB charge ports, a 12-volt charge port, and wireless smartphone charging. We do also have an electric park brake and several drive modes, as well as generous cup holders to use right here. Also, the one and only sound system in the Honda Prelude is an 8-speaker Bose system. But let's talk drive modes and S+. Oh, there's the engine, by the way, because we actually have 4 drive modes, and then this is separate. The drive modes are Comfort, Grand Touring, Sport, and Individual. And I will press and hold to show you that we do actually have a lot of controls here for the drive modes, including suspension. We do have adaptive shock absorbers, and that brings us to S+. S+, when you turn it on, the Prelude simulates shifts. This is a hybrid setup, one that doesn't have a transmission, yet we do have paddle shifters, and that not only adjusts the amount of decel you get when you're braking, but also when you're in that S+ mode, will change gears. This will simulate having an 8-speed automatic transmission, and you can literally use the paddles to change the engine RPM and shift the car, but you're playing a video game. It's not real. It's really changing the engine sound. It's really changing the engine RPM, but the electric motor, as likely as anything, is still what's doing all the work and actually driving the car. So I'm not sure how I feel about that one. That said, what's interesting is this can be on or off for every drive mode, and S+ will behave differently when you're in the different drive modes. What an interesting combination of things, right? I'm genuinely perplexed by this thing because some of it does feel really pure. Civic Type R parts into this car, the low profile nature of it, and the high performance tires. Not to mention really good visibility from that low sloping front end. But then different engine sounds in the different drive modes, and then shifts that aren't actually real. Let's experience it together. Let's get back on the road and see how it drives. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Just like the Honda Civic Hybrid, a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder hybrid powertrain lies under the hood. The combined effort of the internal combustion engine and electric drive motor deliver a total of 200 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque, with most of the efforts to power the car coming from the motor. This 2-motor hybrid system also forgoes a transmission and sends power to the front wheels. Being a hybrid also helps fuel economy, of course. You get 46 miles to the gallon in the city, 41 on the highway, 44 combined. Just like the Honda Civic Hybrid, this one does also happily run on regular gasoline. Definitely a good thing this day and age. So I showed you that S+ button, and that's a really interesting thing because it works in all the different drive modes, and it also changes the functionality of the shift paddles. So right now with the S+ off, if I play with these paddles, what I get is adjustment in off accelerator deceleration. There are 7 different levels of that. If I lift off, I get a little bit of decel, no big deal. But as I press the pedal, it slowly but surely, iteratively gets heavier and heavier brake decel and gets pretty darn close to one pedal driving. You get a good 0.2 of a G of decel right there. To me, I don't think we need 7 different levels of that as long as the highest level has good decel, but hey, maybe people like it that way. So if I turn S+ on, now these same shift paddles change gear. I don't know if you could hear that until we got to the second gear, but it will just keep changing the engine revs, and it will act as if it can't go to higher revs because that would be too high for the engine. So it's saying that we can't get past second gear. It pretends to be an 8-speed automatic transmission, as I said. But here's what's interesting. This S+ system operates differently when you're in the different drive modes. So when I'm in comfort, it's still gonna act as if the transmission is calibrated to be in comfort, get to the highest gear as quickly as possible, and do all those things. But if I shift to sport and play with those gears again, First of all, you hear a different engine sound. We get the Sport engine sound from that. Also, it tends to stay in that higher gear. I do appreciate that it does respond to the paddles, whether it actually needs to or not, but this whole thing just feels a little bit too gimmicky to me. And also, if you're in the GT mode, it's basically in between these two. But whether you're in the S Plus mode or not, the car will kind of go through the gears when you're in the sport driving mode. If I floor it, there's the engine, there's the shift. But there's also pretty darn good pull. It's not much different in the comfort drive mode. Floor the accelerator. It's a little bit slower to ramp in, but then once you get going, you get the same strong pull. The only real difference is it takes an extra second or so to ramp in the power, whereas in the sport driving mode, it kind of pushes it on right away. This being the return of the Prelude name and just fundamentally a two-door sports car that just happens to be a hybrid, of course I was curious to see how this thing accelerates. And yes, I tested that. Let me show you right now. All right, time for an acceleration test. I have the car in sport mode and I do have traction control reduced. And I'm gonna not have the S Plus on. That has no bearing on its actual speed, and I'm just concerned about its actual speed. So let's see what that is. Coming to a complete stop. Or the accelerator. There we go. Not a bad launch. Still getting shifts. Yeah, pretty quick. Not overwhelming, but pretty darn quick. Okay, solid. It's not as visceral as the 5th generation Prelude was, even though we have the same 200 horsepower. This one has way more torque, 232 pound-feet, but that one had a fair amount less weight, must be said. But overall, this thing stays flat, hunkers down, doesn't spin up the wheels, and accelerates pretty darn well. All right. Let's dig into the chassis. We get the most common suspension geometry in the Prelude Hybrid, struts up front, and an independent multi-link setup at the rear. But we also effectively get the Honda Civic Type R version of the common suspension, albeit with a different tune. Because of that relationship to the Civic Type R, we get the dual axis front suspension. And what that allows is lots of power and lots of power applied to the front axle without any torque steer. We've also got the front and rear brakes from the Civic Type R, so you have more confidence in the brake pedal, you don't have a lot of compliance, and you've just got a healthy amount of stopping power. Certainly the high-performance summer tires help that along as well. This also has the Civic Type R steering system. That gives us 2.1 turns lock to lock, a nice and direct steering feel in this car. Cap that off with adaptive shock absorbers that actually do change the feel of the chassis in the different drive modes. This little hybrid is deceptively quick-witted, even in the comfort drive mode. If I turn the wheel, yeah, I get healthy response and not that much body roll. Some, but less than you'd expect from a hybrid, traditionally at least. Now, if I move it to the GT mode, there are 3 different levels for the adaptive shocks, and it is noticeably stiffer going over the bumps in the GT mode. It does also change the steering assistance. So if I turn the wheel, yeah, it's sharper. And we still have the sport mode to go to. Turn the wheel again. Oh yeah, that's sharp. The steering reacts quickly. It's a nice and heavy wheel, but you can see that we get quick response from the front end. And even though I was aggressively yanking the wheel, not that much body roll. But briefly, in the GT and comfort settings, it also rides perfectly fine. All that said, something named the Prelude has to handle well. And of course I had to test that. Of course I did. Let me show you that right now. All right, time for the handling test. Pretty excited about this one. I do have it in the sport driving mode, and I do have traction control reduced, and I'm quite curious to see how it feels. So let's go. Yeah, decent pull. Different engine sound, of course. Ah, wow, healthy amounts of grip. And pretty flat body there too. Happy with that. Oh, yeah, we've got a healthy amount of grip here. I was ready to have to go a little slower than that. Good initial start. That was fun. For a slight change of pace, that was in the sport driving mode. This will be in the sport driving mode with S Plus on. So I'm going to do a little bit more handling with this S Plus shifting simulation on. See what that does. Okay, it says we're in second gear, third, fourth. Handles those whoops in the road with no trouble. Fifth gear. Oh man, yeah. Okay. And fourth, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, so in terms of the driving feel, no difference in terms of actual feel. You know, it was a little bit more involved, I suppose, because it was as if I was rev matching and doing all this, but, you know, I'm not doing any of that. Obviously, my hands never left the steering wheel, so it's cute, but it's not for me. However, in terms of handling, this is a capable little sports car. It retains that natural, easy to feel the limit Honda feel. It makes an enjoyable experience. Any car on the road today is going to spend some time on the interstate. Of course, the Prelude's no exception. Of course, I had to test that as well. Let me show you that. All right, time for a brief stint on the interstate. See how this Prelude feels on the open road. I do have it back in the comfort driving mode, and traction control is fully on and all that kind of fun stuff. Okay, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic, and I do have all the driving aids on. We do have the usual suite of driving aids. It's called Honda Sensing, and we are coming up on a curve, so I'm going to take my hands off the wheel, and sure enough, it's tracking the center of the lane pretty darn well. It's moving around a little bit. It's bobbing around a touch, but generally it's staying pretty well centered. Being a fully digital instrument cluster and having all the driving aids, we also have a screen showing us what the car sees on the road. And Honda's version of this really is one of my favorites because it gives you 3 lanes, but it'll also generally, there aren't any around at the moment, it'll show you if it's a semi-truck. It'll show you if it's a motorcycle. I like that dexterity. That added detail is a nice benefit in my mind. And by the way, you might have seen that despite my very heavy right foot, that I'm still getting close to 38 miles to the gallon. And I have to say that fundamentally speaking, this is a little bit quieter than I was expecting. This is definitely quieter than Honda Civics are. Plus, the screens are easy to look at, no glare or anything else like that. And these supportive seats are also very comfortable. So there's a lot of good here. I think as long as it's just you and one other person, this would be a great little road trip car. So what do I think of this 6th generation Honda Prelude Hybrid? I think that there is a purity of purpose in this car that I can really enjoy. Yes, it's a hybrid. Yes, it's an efficient one, but it's got a really nice sporty 2-door shape. It's got a low profile, and it does have athletic moves to back that up. But I have a hard time tying this to the Prelude, especially the 5th generation Prelude. There was just a unique beauty to how that thing drove, how pure and natural it was, that I'm not repeating in this car now. Were I in charge, I would want to build this car because I really do genuinely enjoy it. I just don't know if I'd want to name it the Prelude. The point is, regardless of the name, this is a good-looking and great driving car. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. Let's go. I mean, this is deceptively quick.